Hello and welcome back to Mayday. I am your host and I will be on the screen in just one moment. Hello and welcome in to the show, guys. It's been a while since we did this show live like this, but we are here and it is so much fun to be here. I'm your host, Trevor May, and this is Mayday, a show about the show. And the World Series is over, and thusly the 2025 season, and there is so many things to talk about. If you like my hat, we're going to talk about that in a moment as well. I just want to say thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe to not only the Foul Territory channel that we are live on right now, but also my channel over at Trevor May Baseball. Also on YouTube, and Hour 2 will be in that same area. So you won't want to miss that either. Hour 2, we're going to go over and we're kind of going to do a little bit of a general roundtable about the World Series. We will be touching on it with the news here in Hour 1, but I want the chat's participation in that, because there are so many things to touch on. I didn't make a ton of videos during the playoffs. That's kind of how we're going to roll here. As we move forward with the show and do this every single year, it's when it gets to the playoffs, trying to keep more space to react to the big things that are happening, and that's just the way it needs to be. So anyway, we have so many things. Look at this. This is an 18-page script today. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? We're gonna start, and we're just gonna go off right to the races here. We're gonna begin with a little bit of an opening monologue where I want to revisit all of the predictions that I made going into this season. It was way back on March 24th. We did 10 bold predictions for things that we thought, myself, would unfold through the year. We also did like the Cy Young and Gold Gloves, I believe, Rookie of the Year, Reliever of the Year, and we're still going to touch on those in a further show, but obviously the voting on those things has not come out. So we are going to instead hit the predictions that we can identify whether or not they happened correctly or not correctly, and I'm going to give myself a little leeway and give ourselves a little bit of score at the end. But just as pretty much every journalist that covers baseball constantly says every time they're asked to do predictions, and I'm talking to you, Passon and Rosenthal, they don't like to make them because they're impossible to make. And let's just say my score here is going to double down and prove that point. Okay, so let's get right into whether or not I got my big bold predictions for the 2025 season correct, or more likely not. Okay, so 10 bold predictions. Number 1. No AL team wins more than 92 games. Now, we went in thinking that, hey, this is definitely an NL heavy season, or an NL heavy. We think the power is there with the Phillies and the Dodgers and San Diego and Arizona and the Giants, and like we had all of these teams, and for the most part that all kind of coalesced a little bit. I felt like the Phillies and the Cubs were just as good as we thought to be. The Brewers ended up having the best record in the league, and we didn't see them doing it, but it was the better league and did end up winning the World Series. But we thought the AL was going to be a lot weaker, and for the most part it was, though technically, oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. It's not working. Oh, I have a thing for this. 1 second. And I don't remember what it is because I hardly ever use it. We're back. I fixed it. It just simply wasn't reacting. And now it is. I was wrong. Turns out there were 92 plus win teams. They both happen to be in the AL East, and they were the Blue Jays and the Yankees. But everyone else won less than 92 games, which I feel like that was a pretty bold prediction. And technically it's wrong. It was pretty close. And I feel like I have a little bit of, I should get a little love for that, even though it is a technical swing and a miss. So yes, there were 2 teams that inevitably ended up winning more than 92 games. Bold prediction number 2, overperformer of the year. A guy I thought that was going to create a lot more value for his team, more value in theory than his contract called for. And that man was Tommy Pham. We checked in on all of these halfway through the season, by the way, I believe on July 14th. So you can check out that show too to see where we amended some of this stuff. Though since then he did get a lot better. He was really struggling when we checked in last time, and he did end the season a little bit stronger, but I would say he did not overperform. He ended up hitting 245 with a 700 OPS, a 95 OPS plus, with 10 home runs and 52 RBIs, and exactly 1 B-WAR for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and didn't get traded. So I think everyone was surprised by pretty much every part of that. So I'm going to have to give myself a good old-fashioned wrong again. That's 0 for 2, and that does not feel good, but guess what? You got to stand up and you got to be honest with yourself when you don't know anything about anything. All right, number 3, underperformer of the year. I thought that though Willy Adames was one of the best middle infielders on the market last year, that he wasn't. I didn't think he was going to immediately go and be an impact bat for the Giants. And when we checked in July, that was definitely the case. At that point, he was hitting 221 with a 682 OPS and only a 0.9 B-WAR, which is B-WAR usually is what has actually happened on the field. F-WAR is predictive, so that's why we use B-WAR for this. But he actually ended up a lot stronger, so I would say I was mostly wrong. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, even though I don't think that the aggregate season really kind of lined up with what he was paid. He definitely made a big push at the end there to get there. So he ended the season hitting 225 with a 740 OPS and a 111 OPS plus, pretty solid, and 3.7 B-WAR. So he had a 3.5 WAR. Now, I think he's paid like a 5 WAR player, but like going from 0.9 to 3.7 in a couple months is really impressive, and he deserves it. So I would say, wrong again, Trevor. Nice, 0 for 3. You look stupid. Moving on, number 4. My guess for stolen base leader was Elly De La Cruz in a big, bold prediction on that one. Pick the guy that won it last year. Fortunately, he did not win it. That would be Jose Caballero, who played for the Yankees there at the end of the year. And Elly De La Cruz actually ended up taking 7th. He had 37, while Caballero had 49. So it wasn't necessarily close. So that is a good old-fashioned 0 for 4 wrong. Great, awesome, sick, sweet. This is going so well. Though he was in the top 10, I give myself a little bit of it. Like, yeah, he's a great base stealer, but like base stealing, especially in the major leagues, like the top 10 of the top 10, like they're about 8 of those guys are going to be there every single year they are healthy. So not super bold, but I did think that he would run more. I thought he would have most opportunities as well. So I also thought he would lead the league in caught stealing. We would be wrong about that. It was actually Chandler Simpson who led the league in caught stealing with 12. Elly was tied in 9th with 8. So he also did not lead the league in caught stealing. But if you do the math there, he was 39 for 47 on stolen base appearances or attempts. That's pretty dang good. That's pretty dang good. Elly, I think that's a step forward for Elly De La Cruz in terms of his aggressiveness and maybe his risk taking when it gets down to kind of accumulating a lot of these stats. So, I mean, if I'm the Reds, I'm pumped. But I would say he needs to get his 40 bags a year. Like, he needs to go for 40 every year no matter what. I don't want to see him like suddenly turn into a 15-bag guy because he's out here trying to hit homers. Let that guy run. Keep him running. Don't slow him down. Keep him running, even if he doesn't win the championship or have the most stolen bases on the year. But very, very good. I enjoyed it a lot watching him play. All right, here we go. Next up, number 6. This one's very interesting. Yeah, I got that wrong. The longest win streak going to the Cleveland Guardians. Now, we scoffed back in July when we revisited this. This was before the Brewers went on their 14-win streak, which ended up being the actual winner, so that's not quite right. But and also, at this point, the Guardians had lost 10 straight games at that point. So they were not playing well. They were bad. It was like, oh my, this team is underperforming. Like the Twins have a better record. I don't know if they had a better record at the time, but they were closer and they had won 13 straight at some point. But then September came, and as we all know, they came back and they won the Central Division. And you know how they did that? They won 10 straight games on that streak. So I'm giving myself a W, because even though they didn't have the highest win streak, they had an exactly 10-game win streak. So I think that is worth giving me a little bit of credit. I did guess their win streak perfectly. So that's 1 for 6. 1 for 6. If I were a hitter, still not great. Okay, moving on. Number 7. Number 7, boldest prediction of the year. The non-closer of the year, the guy I thought would be the best non-closer, Jeremiah Estrada. Now, we also revisited this back in July, and I think I amended it to say, though Jeremiah has been strong, and I believe he had a sub-3 again and struck out a lot of guys, but he had some chonky innings in there from time to time. We said at that point that Adrian Morejon would be probably the choice for this because of how valuable he's been as a reliever. And I think that's true. I think Adrian Morejon, for me, is still the best non-closer in the league because he went 13-6 as a reliever, which just shows you, if you are putting this guy into a tie game and you are winning 13 of those, you got to tip your cap. He is a guy that goes in the game and then you guys end up winning. The value to that is a big deal. But technically I am incorrect. So that is now 1 for 7. Okay. Moving on. Now we remember, we set a rule last time that things would be on pace and we would give ourselves a thumbs up if they were in the top 5 of whatever it was. So like if they were around top 5. So I'm going to amend, I think taking that rule to the next level. If we predict someone to win and they're in like the top 3 and it's really close, we can give ourselves the tip of the cap because things like this are really hard, like RBI leader, for example, the next one. So if your guy didn't quite win, but he was really close to winning, then I'm going to give myself a W. I know I'm setting this up. I predicted Pete Alonso to be the RBI leader for the entire major leagues in this past year, and he ended up taking second with 126 behind another man in his division, Kyle Schwarber, who had quite the year and is going to end up probably being second for the MVP. But Pete Alonso with 126 RBIs and taking second, getting that close on a year that a guy led the league with 132. It's pretty impressive. And so I am going to glom on to that prediction and that happening and give myself a point as well because I deserve it. Okay, that's 2 for 8. Moving on to 10 pitchers. World Series MVP. This is wrong. Forgot to tell you about this. I predicted that the Phillies would win the World Series. We'll talk about that in a moment. And I had Brandon Marsh winning it. That didn't happen. That's an L. So that's 2 for 9. And then 10 pitchers will throw 200 plus innings across the entire major leagues in a year, in a atmosphere of baseball where nobody throws close to that many innings anymore. That was a bold prediction. That's why it goes in the list. And it turns out, big miss, even though back in July, there were 8 guys on pace at that point. That isn't usually a great, I wouldn't say not a great indicator. I would say that usually isn't telling the whole story because when teams are out of it, some of the guys on this list were. Once you get out of it, maybe you don't make that last start of the year or like you skip a start or whatever, just to make you not have to throw some innings and then you end up just missing it, which I think happened. It turns out only 3 got there. Logan Webb, Garrett Crochet, and Christopher Sanchez all got over 200 innings. But there were 6 other guys that threw more than 192, including Framber Valdez, Tarek Skubal, and others. I think the top 10 were 186 all the way up. So pretty good, but Brandon Webb ended up, it's not Brandon Webb. Logan Webb. Holy moly. Why am I thinking about Brandon Webb? That was weird. Logan Webb led the league in innings and he is a workhorse. He also had more strikeouts in it. He needs a little bit more love, I think, than we're giving him. He was very good, but unfortunately, I did not hit this one. That's not a very good run. That's 2 for 10. I'm going to say 2.5 for 10 so far, because I'll give myself half a point in the Adames. He did come raging back, but he didn't quite get to the full value, I think, or the expectation. So I would say he still underperformed, even though he maybe didn't underperform as much. So I'm going to give myself a little credit. So 2.5 out of 10. I don't know why I'm giving myself half a point. It does not make it look any better. All right, let's talk really quickly about the playoffs. I have my playoff bracket prediction here. These are all the teams that I thought would make it. The Rangers, no. Red Sox, yes. Guardians, yes. Orioles, no. Tigers, yes. Astros, no. So I'm 3 for 6 over here. And on this side, 3 for 6. So I got half of the playoff teams right when there's 12. 6 for 12 is not good. Not good. Though the Mets did lose it on the last day, and the Braves were right behind that. Or not the Braves. The D-backs right behind them. The Braves were out of it the whole time. So L's across the board a little bit here. And I would say that's probably 6 out of, you got to get the majority to do a good job. Even though I predicted the playoffs, how they played out a little bit better than that, that is not good. Though the Tigers and the Guardians coming in right at the end make me look smart, and the Red Sox. How do I not have the Yankees in here? What am I? Oh, well, I mean, the Orioles are the Braves of the AL, so I think this was absolutely possible. I think that getting the Tigers in over the Yankees was kind of the bold move, but I didn't get the Blue Jays. But hey, in my defense, nobody got the Blue Jays. So don't yell at me. And so that's a miss. And the World Series champion I had, the Philadelphia Phillies, also a miss. So let's just give myself a nice crisp 2.5 out of 12 of my bold predictions. That hurts. That hurts real bad. I did not do a good job. And I did my best, though. This is going to be something we do every single year. I'm going to go in these predictions. We'll check in halfway, and then we'll go to the end. Just a fun little way to get the show going today. And let me know what you guys thought. And what maybe predictions can we add for next year? It would be cool to have a uniform kind of template that we follow, or up to a certain point where we do the same things every year. I'm looking at, now that I've done this show for a year and I've been on Foul Territory for a year, to have these like annual check-in type things, these special shows. And I like doing this one. I think this one works, and it's a lot of fun, and it does. You guys like watching it later on YouTube as well. So I enjoy it. Just let me know if you enjoy it as well in the chats or comments, wherever it is you are watching this. All right. We are about to move on to some housekeeping in the news. But first, as always, we need a word from the Foul Territory boys about today's sponsor.
FT fam, if you want more information about Superpower, I have real-life customer Eric Kratz with us right now to explain how you're basically getting the pro experience available for everyone.
$199 is the price, and that's a discount from Superpower. That's a discount from everywhere. You get so much information from your lab test results. Christmas is coming up here soon. You can give this gift to somebody else. Health is the gift that keeps on giving.
Your blueprint activated with Superpower. Not only did Superpower reduce that price to what Kratz is talking about, just $199, but for a limited time, FT fam gets an additional $20 off with code TAKE20. Head to superpower.com and use code TAKE20 at checkout for $20.
Head to superpower.com and use code TAKE20 at checkout for $20 off your membership. Live up to your 100-year potential. Hashtag SuperPowerPod. That's superpower.com, and you can use code TAKE20 at checkout for $20 off your membership. I mean, that's the type of thing that I love that stuff. I got to be honest, though I haven't had the pleasure to starting my own Superpower yet. Sounds interesting to me as well. Might just have to do that and tell you what I think. All right, continuing on with our show. A little bit of housekeeping. We have some merch up on the store at www.mayday.show. That is www.mayday.show. We have this hat that I'm wearing, very comfortable, very affordable. We got some new Let It Eat baseball hats, like this logo right here. I love it. It's done by the guys over at Badcliff, letting me redo it. We have the flipped hat, also in the dad hat, and this is a champion tie-dye hoodie. Lots of awesome stuff up there. Go check it out. We're just gonna have different little fun things. It's a great gift. It's a great way to support us here. So if you want it, great. It's getting cold outside. Maybe you need a hoodie. I don't know. I just work here. Moving on. Also join the Substack. Lots of awesome things, including a brand new article from a producer, David Korn, DK. He just put it up talking about the Rockies front office situation and Adam Ottavino's role in it. And if you subscribe and decide to support us financially, just like with the merch, that goes to the team that helps us do things. And that is a great way to support beyond just watching and reading. So we do appreciate it. But as always, the vast majority of that's free, just like the vast majority of this stuff will always be free. So I appreciate that as well. Also, more Mayday. We got our second channel. There's going to be videos on that. You can subscribe to that. Thank you so much. And next week, November 12th, we have the inaugural. Thank you, whoever on Twitter who corrected me on saying first annual. Now that I read it out loud, that sounds stupid. It's inaugural. The Other Baseball Award Show. It is a curated list of our favorite awards here at Mayday, as well as my personal things that I notice. And there is a community component to that. So we have a Google form out there. There's 8 community categories where I need your guys' submissions. It is in the Discord. It is my top comment in the general chat. It is on my Twitter. It is on my Instagram story. It is on my Instagram community. It is on the front page of my YouTube channel. You can get it all there. If Ahmad is here right now in either chat, please post the link from the Discord in the chat. I appreciate that as well. But any sort of feedback you guys can give me on these would be greatly appreciated. And we're going to have a lot of fun with that show next week at the same time. So the Other Baseball Awards, or the OBAs. I need to mock up a logo for that. Anywho, let's get into the news. The news. This week on the news, we are going to be doing a little bit of a recap of all of the opt-ins, opt-outs, player options, managers, fires and hires, and we're going to cover a lot of that stuff because I realized so much of it happened during the playoffs and I didn't comment on it yet. So let's get it. First up, let's talk about the Rockies. Now, like I mentioned, DK wrote an article for the Substack, so you can check it out. It is exploring this a little bit more. But after 3 straight seasons of 100-plus losses, including the MLB organization worst 119 losses this last season, the Rockies have announced that they are moving on from the general manager, Bill Schmidt, who they hired in 2021, and who has been with the organization since 1999. Now, that is a theme with the Colorado Rockies. Hire from within, hire from within, hire from within. I know that guy. He makes me feel comfortable. Now it's his job. I apologize for any construction you're hearing outside my door, but there's nothing I can do about it. Okay, the Wall Street Journal's Jared Diamond put out a quote in a tweet that's explained this job perfectly, I think, and you'll be able to read it right here, but I'll read it for you just in case you are listening on the audio version of this show. I need you all to understand, he says, how many very smart people in baseball view running the Rockies as a dream job. It's the ultimate challenge, trying to figure out how to build a winner in that environment. Smart executives are tantalized by it. They want to prove that they can do it. I myself am also really interested in this problem because when you have a place that's that unique to play in, you can make it an advantage if you get creative. It blows my mind that they have not even attempted that. Not only have they not attempted it, they haven't attempted to stay up with baseball innovation at all. So, which I've heard through the grapevine and through anecdotal evidence of people who've played there. So that's interesting to me that guys are making proposals in that way. I'm actually going to do a video over this winter where I am going to frame it as if I were pitching for this job. I'm not pitching for that job, okay? I'm not angling for it. So there is more happening here in the process. The 2 reported finalists, the Diamondback assistant GM Amiel Sadai. I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly. I will amend that if it is a problem in the future. Guardians assistant GM Matt Foreman. Both were interviewing for the job, and neither one of them are any longer in the running for the position. One declined an offer, and the other one dropped out. So we don't know why they did those things. Maybe they have better jobs. Maybe they were just like, maybe they were like, yeah, I'll take it. And then some better thing came along because they didn't think they were going to have creative control on how to do the thing. But the other name that is very interesting, and speaking of pitching, that has been mentioned connected to it is friend of the Mayday and friend of mine, Adam Ottavino. I was recently on his live stream. You should check that out. He loves to just break down baseball. It's really fun. We're going to do that a lot more in the future. He was reported on Tuesday that Ottavino had conversations with owner Dick Monfort about the position, which, let's just say, piqued my interest. And we actually reached out, and he gave us a comment. What a guy. He's a 15-year MLB vet. He was after appearing for 3 games last year with the Yankees, he decided to hang them up. I don't know if that's official. And now he has his own baseball show on YouTube called Baseball and Coffee. So check that out. He's got a strong connection to the Rockies. He came up with them. He was there from 12 to 18. But here's the quote he gave to DK via text. He said, "The Rockies thing is fun, but probably not going anywhere." Classic. That was a very Adam Ottavino answer. But here's what Ottavino said about pitching Coors Field in an interview with me on my Cut in the Diamond podcast from this last year. Quote, "At Coors Field," let's see if we can get this up there. Yeah, right. "At Coors Field, you have to anticipate a lower break and set up your pitches a little differently. If you want them to chase something below the zone, you have to throw a fastball down there to get them to swing because it's not as much of a difference in break. I want to understand it. I want to figure it out. I'm probably a guy who took it most seriously and therefore was able to combat it better than guys who were in denial about it." Interesting. I remember the denial part of that quote, and I remember thinking, why would you deny it? You just got to look at the TrackMan and know that it's real. That seems goofy. So interesting. If Otto kind of was able to get in there and sneak in and take that job, that'd be great. But you know what? GMing and like being in charge of an entire organization, not for everybody. Like, it's not something that everyone wants to deal with, especially when you have to deal with like poking and prodding an owner to do things. It's just like who would want to GM for the Pirates? You know what I mean? Like, Ben Sherrington's there because he's okay dealing with Bob Nutting. I genuinely think people are like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to deal with that guy. So I totally get it. All right, let's talk about the manager carousel. What has changed in team management since we spoke last? Okay. Number one, Mike Schilt from the Padres. He is out. He kind of surprised a lot of people, myself included, by kind of just abruptly retiring on October 13th after 2 years as the Padres manager, even though I literally did the same thing. So I don't blame him. I'm sure it's just it's just a decision. He was like, nah, this ain't it anymore. And I totally understand it. I still hope he finds something where he gets to hold his pad of paper and his pen at all times, because I don't think I've ever seen him put it down. The Padres made the playoffs in both seasons he was there, so he was successful. There's no doubt that he wouldn't be able to get another job in the future, but it is what it is. So they do not know who their next manager is, so we're going to pay attention closely to that. Back to the Rockies, all right? The Rockies fired Bud Black earlier in the year after being 7-33. Yikes. And then they named Warren Schaefer as the interim manager. They have not chosen anyone else, so as of right now, Warren Schaefer is the manager. We'll see what they do, but it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they want to figure out the GM, the president of baseball operations, and all the other moving pieces before they hire a manager, because that person's going to have input. So that's probably why we don't know yet. But I mean, he technically did do a better job, or had a better winning percentage. Not by a lot, but he did. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the Braves. They also had a tough year this year. And as we know, Brian Snitker is out. But he ended up just not having his contract renewed. So this wasn't a resigning situation or whatever. They just probably mutually decided that he would move up into the front office role, more of a, probably not assistant GM, but special assistant, maybe liaison type of guy. This happens a lot. Paul Molitor has a role like this with the Twins, for example. And so he is no longer the manager, and their new manager is Walt Weiss. Weiss is the favorite, or not Not guaranteed, but the favorite to be the next manager is Walt Weiss. Or no, he is. Sorry. There is a typo in this. Okay, that is on me. Weiss, I knew this. I knew he had signed it. Okay, Weiss is the favorite because he is the manager moving forward. Joined Atlanta in 2018 as a bench coach, and he was just Snitker's right-hand man. So Snitker moves up, and then Weiss slots in behind him. Normal job. I think this was an aberration of a season for the Braves. I think they still have their young core. A bunch of guys were just struggling at the wrong times, and then when guys got going, other guys started to struggle, so they never really got to make a run, even though they did finish pretty strong. But I think a fully healthy, rested Spencer Strider's going to make a big difference. A Michael Harris, more consistent Michael Harris, they're going to be right back in that conversation in the AL East and should be really interesting next year. The Nationals, we know about their big firing of their manager in the middle of the year and their GM with Mike Rizzo and him buying beers for people around the All-Star game. They have hired, and that's Dave Martinez, and they had Miguel Cairo was the interim after that. They decided to go ahead with Blake Butera, who is 33 years old. For context, that is 3 years younger than me. I was a senior in high school when Mr. Butera was a freshman. That is crazy for me to think about. And he is the youngest manager since 1972. He was most recently a senior player development manager for the Rays. And he's managed 4 minor league seasons, the first at 25 years old, and he is 258 and 144 in his career with 4 first-place finishes. So he's found success. He thinks outside the box. That's very clear. This is going to be a really, really interesting thing to see play out because, again, managers don't make all the decisions. They don't get to drive the bus as much as we think they do. So it'll depend on how he operates with the guys upstairs. But I like this. It's a bold move. They went for it. That's a outside the box thing. So I like to see this stuff in baseball more. Continuing on, Twins, Derek Shelton. A lot of Twins fans I've seen out there are a little bit confused by this play. They think that coming from the Pirates, he was an unsuccessful manager for the Pirates. Why would we hire him? Forgetting that Derek Shelton was the bench coach behind Rocco Baldelli and with Wes Johnson as the pitching coach in 18 and 19. And he was the bench coach for the 101 win team in 2019. So he has been in the Twins organization before, and he did a great job there. Not only that, they were kind of a 3-headed monster. It wasn't just Rocco making decisions and him giving input. Like they were kind of just like all together, 3 inputs, same kind of weight, making decisions out on the field. And I'm a big believer in Derek Shelton. I think that he knows what he's doing. I don't think that we're going to see a drop-off in decision-making or player development with Derek Shelton, with Rocco moving on. I think it just comes down to they need to figure out their front office-y situation with how we're spending money and how we're building our team, and then hoping everything goes right, because everything went wrong last year. But I think Derek Shelton can do a good job, and he's got enough experience, and he just got zero support from the front office in Pittsburgh because they refuse to give any. That's just the way it is. So I could be biased because I am friends with him, and I appreciate him a lot, but I do think he has the talent to be a winning manager, and he is a solid. You're not going to lose much there, is what I'm saying. Moving on to the Orioles. They have their new manager after Brandon Hyde was fired in May, and Tony Manzolino, young Manzolino, took over as an interim. Craig Albernaz, 42, was associate manager for the Cleveland Guardians. That means bench coach, but Guardians are always making up corporate names for all their coaches. And they won the Central last year. He was actually the front runner for the Guardians for a long time before Stephen Vogt, who ended up being the manager, took over. So now he's getting his real chance. And if you really look at him, he looks familiar, doesn't he? He's always up there standing next to Vogt. You see him a lot. And the Giants made the biggest splash, in my opinion, in the manager market when Bob Melvin was fired after the regular season, because they did end up not getting into the playoffs when they probably should have with the talent they had. And they hired Tony Vitello, who has been the manager, the coach of the Tennessee Volunteers college baseball team. First manager ever to go directly from college head coaching job to a major league team without prior MLB experience. He never played I don't think he played professionally, but the 47-year-old turned around Tennessee, taking the Vols to 3 super regional appearances and winning the 2024 Men's College World Series last year. You may remember them for their antics, but everyone speaks very highly of this gentleman. He knows what he's doing. He is on the cutting edge of development, and he brings an energy that maybe is needed. But he is about to enter a clubhouse with Matt Chapman and run by a team managed by or GM'd by Buster Posey. These guys are vets, and they're more old school. I don't want to say old school, traditionalist. Like, don't be flashy, put your heads down, just do your work, whatever. So it's going to be very interesting how those leaders glom on, or how they operate together. But by everything I've heard, this guy is a player's, like, he is a, you guys do it, and I am here to be a support umbrella kind of thing, right? Like, you guys, whatever atmosphere you need to have to win baseball games, I'm gonna put you in that position, and then I'm gonna protect you, and that is what they need. Like, that is what they need. I myself had a pitching coach come straight from college in Wes Johnson. One of our biggest critiques or biggest worries was how rah college is gonna be, because in the major leagues you play so many games that you can't do that. Like, you can't operate off of adrenaline and energy all the time like you can in college. So we wanted to see, like, how much of that there was. And it turned out Wes understood the assignment and immediately came as like, hey guys, you tell me what you want and need to do, and then I'm gonna find ways to slot in some maybe outside the box information. And he was amazing. And I have nothing but the utmost respect for Wes, and he ended up going back to college because that was more his, like, that was the kind of the age group he liked to work with. But I have no doubt in my mind that this guy will also do that thing, and it'll be more of a breath of fresh air. And I think he can fit in really well. I don't think that's going to be an issue. So I just want to put that out there. Last couple quick ones here. The Angels hired Kurt Suzuki, my first catcher in the big leagues, which is crazy to think about. And he has the face of someone who was just hired by the manager of the Angels. I don't know what they're doing over there. We have the Perry Manassian quotes about Kikuchi and the just kind of like not acknowledging that there was an issue and that Kikuchi loves it there and whatever, which is just, I'm sure, for Angels fans, wildly annoying, because it's like, dude, can we just say, yes, this is happening and we're working on it? Instead, we have to act like it's not real because it's a PR thing, and then just look worse. And for a team that constantly has talent and constantly underperforms and constantly makes the wrong decisions, I love Kurt. I think he's going to do a good job. I just hope he doesn't walk into this nightmare of a mess where he's like, oh, what do you want me to do with this, right? I think that's what's happening with the manager carousel here. So hopefully this face he's making isn't indicative of what is up to come. And then we have the Rangers hiring Skip Schumacher, who seems very happy to be there after Bruce Bochy was done, decided to be done, mutually agreed to end the tenure. So Skip Schumacher takes over. And as you remember, last time Skip Schumacher managed the team, they went to the playoffs, and it was the Marlins. So he's done a good job. I'm glad he's getting another opportunity too, because I think that he deserves it. And he was never going to be given another opportunity with the Miami Marlins. That was a one-year thing no matter what. I thought he didn't deserve that. And so it's awesome to see that he has this now. All right. Let's just quickly go through some options and some things that players went through and whether or not I think they're crazy or not crazy or surprising. Not a lot here that is surprising, but a lot of moving pieces for free agency. So these are player options. We got the guys who opted out of their player options, meaning basically a player option is the player decides whether or not they want to take whatever's on the paper or move on. The team option means the team gets to choose whether they want to go off the paper or move on. And then mutual means both of them have to agree to move forward. If one of them doesn't, then it is void, right? So those are the three ways to do options. Veterans usually have player options. Guys who sign team friendlies usually have team options. That's usually how it works. So the earlier you sign it, the more more likely it is to be a team option on the back end. So we have Pete Alonso opting out. That was pretty predictable. Cody Bellinger also had a good year. Probably wants to get more money. Pete thinks he can get more money. I think there's a pretty good market for first baseman. So that is interesting to me. Alex Bregman opted out. That surprised me a little bit more. I thought maybe he'd go one more year, but he did have a really good year. Basically, they're going year by year. If you have a good year, you just basically jump off the train when you have the platform year that can maybe get you a longer term deal. So these all make sense. Sugar Diaz, interesting, because he's already the highest paid closer or second highest paid closer. He's up there. So to opt out to try to get more money was always interesting, but he had another great platform year. So someone could use him. It wouldn't surprise me one bit, though, if his contract just gets restructured with the Mets. Like, that wouldn't surprise me one bit. He has bargaining power now, but if someone else can get him, closers are, as we saw, bullpen guys are important for going on the playoffs. Hassan Kim opted out, which was the most surprising because he had kind of a lost season. I don't know how that one's going to work out, but he is good defensively, and maybe he sees an opportunity. Maybe he knows something we don't. And then Robert Suarez had another great year. He's another closer. It's a good market to go out there and be closers. Him and Edwin going out make a lot of sense to me. Guys who opted into their deals. Shane Bieber decided to come back for his player option with the Blue Jays. Smart, because he started to look much more sharp towards the end there. Jack Flaherty, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., AJ Minter, Frankie Montas, Tyler O'Neill, Wandy Peralta, and Trevor Story. All guys that don't probably think they can get more money on the free agent market, or they like where they are. And I think that's smart. AJ lost his entire year. Frankie Montas definitely should take his freaking option because he's not going to get an offer from anyone else. And Jack Flaherty, maybe Jack Flaherty could have, but I think that's a smart move too. So none of that's really crazy outside of Hassan Kim. All right, team options. Of the options that were accepted by the teams, Ozzie Albies, Andres Munoz, Freddie Peralta, Brooks Raley, Louis Robert Jr., and Chris Sale. Now, the Louis Robert Jr. one will always continue to surprise me. I don't know. It's $20 million. They're just trying to keep him forever, I guess. They're like, we're going to be good soon, and he's going to be the guy. Okay, whatever you want. Ozzie Albies had his team option. Again, he signed a mega team friendly. His is finally coming to the end of it, but he has team options, so they're just going to keep saying, sure, Ozzie, we'll give you $7 million. Like, he's still being underpaid. That stinks for him. But it might be a little more 7. It was 7 a year for the first 5 a year for 7 years, something like that, something bad. And it's gone up a little bit. So them taking it is pretty great. But there was one big option decline, was interesting. Shota Imanaga, he also declined his side of it too. So he's going to become a free agent. Starting pitchers out there. He might be one of the guys that some competing teams will go after and maybe give a little bit extra more money to. That is really interesting to me. And then there's William Contreras was his decline, Jared Duran, and Kyle Hart. So there's some weird ARB things going on in tenders here happening, but all of those guys could potentially be on teams in the future. But the big one for me is Shota Imanaga joining the free agency pool. There's something interesting there with Ranger Suarez. We're going to do a lot of free agency stuff later, but I just thought this was interesting. And then finally, a last piece of news, Yu Darvish going to miss the entire 2026 season with Tommy John, and he is already 38 years old. So the Padres had their manager retire. They had both Dylan Cease and Michael King opt out of their contracts. So who knows what's going to happen to the Padres? I sure as heck don't. They got quite a few free agents going out of there too. So worth looking to, but I lied. Actually, Yu Darvish isn't 38. He's 39, so who knows how he'll come back. He's having a surgery with Keith Meister, though. And that guy's the man. He did this guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if he came back stronger than ever. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Padres. We'll have to pay attention because pitchers and catchers report in like 95 days. That's crazy. That's crazy. All right. We're going to get into Maysplaining, or at least we're probably going to have to do a two-parter Maysplaining, but it's okay. The way I put it together means we can do that. So, but we're going to do that in just a moment after one more word from the boys and our sponsor.
Hey, we've told you about Huel's new Daily Greens ready-to-drink can, but also we do not want to forget about the OG.
Your favorite. You love that chocolate peanut butter flavor.
I do.
You and Kratz love that chocolate peanut butter flavor.
That's
So
my favorite
good.
one. Mm-hmm.
It's so
Want the
good.
breakdown?
The vanilla, also good. But when they sent me the chocolate peanut butter, it's like a dessert. But it's not.
35 grams of protein, no added sugar, gluten-free for your boy, under $5 per meal because it's a meal and a drink. 6 grams of fiber, 27 essential vitamins and minerals. Huel makes healthy eating simple. They also just launched into Target stores nationwide. Try both products today with 15% off your purchase for new customers with the exclusive code FOUL at Huel.com/foul. Use that code, fill out the post-checkout survey to help support FT. Get after it, FT fam.
Get Huel for 15% off for new customers only with code FOUL at Huel.com/foul. That is Huel.com, HUEL.com/FOUL. UL. That stuff's really good, by the way. That is something that I have had and continue to have regularly in my life, and it's quality. It's quality protein. All right. Let's get some Mayplaining in. So, recently I released this video, Free Agency is Broken, where I kind of went through a bunch of reasons that free agency is the way it is and why players make the decisions that they make. And then I made a case for maybe some slight adjustments to how player contracts are structured at the beginning so that free agency starts to correct itself a little bit more with maybe some tweaks to some rules without having to say, you can't spend that much money and you have to spend that much money, because I don't think that moves the needle quite a bit and won't solve the big problems that all the small market fans want. So just quick in a nutshell, you should definitely watch this video in full if you haven't yet. I know a lot of you have, but it will make a lot more sense. But the main premise is free agency, guys going into free agency look for these top dollar amounts because it takes so long to get there. And the vast majority of players that get to free agency only get there one time. So they only get one opportunity to make a maximum value case. And a lot of times free agency misses the prime window of a player's career because they are under control for so long. So what I proposed was, instead of capping how much money you can spend, maybe we shorten how long these deals are and how much control you have at the front end of a player, so that a player can then think about free agency as a couple opportunities, and also the deals can only be so long. So basically, you don't have to get this bidding so high with Juan Soto because he's not going to be on the market ever again. You see what I mean? That's why the bidding goes up so high. This is your one opportunity. If there's more than one opportunity, the incentives to just constantly throw money at, make it higher and higher and higher, those incentives kind of get a little bit smaller, and players can prioritize other things knowing that they can only go a maximum number of years and therefore get a maximum amount of money. So like guys would be more likely to be like, I want to go to this city, right? I want to play in that place and I'm willing to take a little bit less money because I might have another opportunity to do it again later anyways. So great. Also, teams should like it too, so they won't be locked into a 13-year deal where at least 5 of those years are going to be worthless. Like, it kind of kills two birds with that one stone, in my opinion. So that's what I proposed. And then I asked you guys to ask follow-up questions on the video. And that's what I have here. I have compiled 15, kind of aggregated them together, and we're going to go through some of these clarifying questions one by one because I think some of them were so good and brought up such good points in relation to this video that I just think that it's worth talking about in this context. So we're just going to jump right into them with clarification number one. Now, I will give you basically some of these were just aggregated into summarized. I used some software to get the gist and then phrase the question in the most simple way because it was asked a bunch of different ways in the comments. So that's what's happening. If it doesn't look exactly like what you asked in the comments, that's why. Okay. So moving forward. Oops. That's not right. I'm pushing the wrong buttons. There we go. All right. Question number one. So someone basically said, this is from Bratislav. He said, I feel like fewer control years would just result in mega teams getting more players in their absolute prime for fewer years and small market teams catching guys in their final years. Okay. How would you propose changes to prevent the Dodgers, Yankees from still dominating free agency? Wouldn't shorter contracts just let them cycle through stars faster? So this is a great question. And there is some truth to that might happen, but it won't just happen because they have the ability to pay a $700 million contract, right? So let me give you an example here. Say a guy went to free agency after 4 years instead of 6. He is 27 now instead of 29. He can only sign up to a 5-year deal. If that's the case, then the priorities of what he can get, he's like, I can only sign 5 years, so the maximum I'm probably going to get, say this guy is a really good shortstop, second baseman, but he's not say he's like a Dansby Swanson type, $30 million a year guy. So he's like, okay, 5 for 150 is kind of the max. If that's the AAV, because we're going by AAVs, not max contract, we're going by AAVs per year. If it's 5 for 150, the number of teams that can pay for 5 for 150 is way higher than teams that can pay 11 for 325. So already off the top, the number of teams that can afford to project $150 million on their payroll is way higher. So there's more teams theoretically involved, can be. So now the player can say, cool, which one of these cities do I want to get to? Because I'm going to tell you a secret right now. Not everyone wants to go play in the Bronx or play in LA. A lot of people don't want to live in the big city like that. Some people want to live closer to their town. I know for a fact Jake DeGrom was very open to playing in Atlanta or playing in Tampa because that's closer to where he grew up. Like, those places were not options because they simply would not get near his value because of what he commands. But if that were a smaller deal, shorter, more teams would deal with it. So that's what I think. I think players are open to going other places. They don't just go there because it's the best place to go. They go there because it's going to offer them the most money vast majority of the time. But if you remove they're going to offer me the most money or like meaningfully more money. If the Yankees like, we'll give you 32 a year, you're making 160 instead of 150. Guys might take 150 to go to a city they want to go to, as opposed to not, like Trey Turner did. He took a little bit less money to go to Philly because that's where his wife's from. Guys want to do that. They want to live where they want to live. That would be nice to think about. Some people go to the city because that's the best deal they had by far, and that's the trade-off you have to make. I think that would be alleviated, so I don't think that's quite true. I think that people will be more open to giving other teams a chance if they can actually participate in the conversation. But right now we have 2 or 3 teams participating in the big ones, and then we have 2 or 3 teams participating in the small ones, and everyone else is just like, well, that's what free agency is now. That's what I think. I think that'll change it. But that there needs to be more happening, obviously, to incentivize spending. But I think that in the psyche of a player, they would be more open to taking a deal that wasn't only the financially best deal if this were the way it was. That was my case. So, do I think it would fix this? No. Do I think it would alleviate it a little bit and more guys would make choices away from those 2 teams? Yes. How much? I don't know. But I know that it would be more than it is now. Number 2. Or I asked for comments and suggestions, by the way. Maybe minor league time should count as service time, but at a reduced rate. The minor league season counts as a quarter, half season service time to help MLB get free agency faster. That's very interesting. And the one bottleneck, or the couple bottlenecks I see with this, are potentially manipulation of like at what level, right? Is it AA or higher? Because there's no option system, right? So if there's no option system, meaning a limited number of options of guys going up and down from the big leagues because of service time, like teams will just keep people in AA and not put them in AAA until they're about to bring them up so they don't get service time. So there would have to be a bunch of rules put in place for that. It'd get complicated really quickly, but that's a really interesting premise. I like that. Maybe there's something there. Maybe that's for a future video. All right. 3. Hey Trev, this topic may or may not relate to league-wide parity, but I was curious if you could delve into a theory as to why no AL or NL Central team has won a pennant since 2016. Are the markets in these divisions unable to compete with coastal markets? Will this be something that comes up in the salary cap during the incoming lockout? It will come up, yes. The reason that these teams can't compete with the coast is one, that's a really nice argument. So for example, the Guardians, the Twins, the Tigers actually an exception a little bit. They've just been poorly run since then. So that's a little bit of an outlier here, I think, but they've spent some money. A lot of teams just like the Reds are just going to be like, we can't spend, so they just don't even try. Like they're not even in the conversation ever. Like it's a foregone conclusion. They don't even approach the idea, and they just say no, we can't, and that's it. And then everyone accepts that, right? So there's that part. So one. The market themselves, though, they could spend more money and they could, like, for example, the Ricketts could just absolutely do what everyone else is doing with the Cubs. They just refuse to. They just don't want to. They don't want to because they own everything around the stadium and it's a nice little gig for them and they're good enough and it's fun and people keep coming and they keep selling out and Eddie Vedder shows up 5 times a year and it's great. And they get celebrities to sing the Take Me Out the Ball Game and whatever. So, like, the reason it hasn't happened is, one, there's a little bit of unluckiness, right? Like the Guardians have gotten close, whatever, but like had they had an impact player they went got in free agency, had they had made any attempt to do that at all, they might have been able to make a push. But again, they're not in the conversations for the big guys because I understand. They're like, we can't pay a 12-year deal. We can pay a 3-year deal. We can't pay a 12-year deal. And that just excludes 25 of the teams and all the teams in the Central. And that's why we haven't seen them. But it is going to come up. They're going to use them as an example. Bob Nutting isn't trying at all. You can't make the case, no matter what that dork says or whatever the jargon is or the thing they wrote up on the little the talking points he did when he does an interview one time a year. He's not trying. He's never tried. Everything's been his business has been running itself for 20 years. He was born into it. He has no interest in developing anything, just reaping the rewards. So don't expect that from him. But again, these guys are outliers, right? Not everyone is Bob Nutting. Bob Nutting's by himself. I would say Dick Montfort is 10 times the owner that Bob Nutting is. That guy pisses me off. He's up there with John Fisher right now. He's in my shit list. All right, moving on. Moving forward. Hey, Trev. I understand evaluating players if and when they're ready is subjective, but do you think service time manipulation is also adding to the problem? It used to a lot more than it does now, but yes, it's definitely part of that. But there's been major changes, especially in the 2022 CBA rollover. You can't manipulate as well. There's a number of times you can send someone up while using an option. Basically, how options work, you send them down to the minor leagues. That option is gone unless they're sent back to the big leagues within 10 to. It's gone to 10 to 15, 10 to 15 a bunch of times. It's somewhere in that time, and then you get it back for the year. Once you burn the option, you only get like 5 charges for a video game term. Like then it's on cooldown. So you can send them up and down 5 times. So those limits have adjusted that a little bit better. But yeah, sure, there's some manipulation time. Usually it was in the case of trying to get to arbitration here early. That's not really happening as much anymore, which is good. It's a good thing. So yes, it's part of it. It's a lot less part of it than it used to be. Okay. Ooh, I like this one about the NIL. So someone asked, NIL makes going to the majors early much less appealing. No uber talented prospect is going to want to ride charter buses and sleep in Best Westerns BFE over potentially playing for an NCAA championship. I don't think that's true, frankly, because college baseball just isn't as lucrative as you think it is. Though it is getting better with the internet. They're not sponsoring college baseball players. There's just not a lot of NIL money in there, not near as much as there is for football and literally everyone else. But there is an ability to do the content creator thing. This is anecdotes, right? So I don't have the data in front of me. I don't think it's enough money to drive that. But I also think that there might be a shift though, where guys are thinking about college a lot more. But for the most of baseball is just hard. Like look at Kyler Murray. He's like, I'm going to the NFL because I'm going to get to the big leagues way faster. And you just can't guarantee that in baseball. So it is a slog, and it can be, if it's not the perfect situation where you're going to blow through, you might as well stay at school and get the NIL money because you make a little bit more. I get it. But then again, remember, when you're signed, especially if you're a high prospect, you don't have to worry about making money in the minors because you're given a $3 million bonus. You get $3 million out the gate. Sometimes that's what they want. NIL money is nothing compared to that usually. So, all right, continuing on the salary cap, and we're going to do this question. We're going to take a break, and we're going to get right back to it in hour 2. What would happen if MLB implemented a hard floor where teams must spend 90% of their revenue on payroll, like some suggest for the Mets and Dodgers? Can you show the math on what that would look like in different market seasons? So I could show the math. That'd be a lot of math. But I will say right now, the highest spend of revenue that someone gets is the Dodgers at 73% of their revenue. They're still making money, even though they're spending that much money, right? So 90% is kind of high. You would never get a floor at 90%. I believe the floor offered last CBA when they offered a salary cap, it was right now the bottom level, the luxury tax is $210 million. They offered a 180 salary cap and a 100 floor, which would affect 3 teams, which is it's just absolute crap. That's a terrible proposal, but they put it out there because they wanted a rebuttal, and the players wouldn't even give them a rebuttal, because if you give them a rebuttal, then you make it real. And that is the whole thing. We're going to talk about that a lot over the next year. But I think a floor will help, but I think it comes down to incentives and deterrence, because in baseball, a salary cap will inordinately hurt the players. It just will. Like, we do need a rebalancing of how pay is done, but capping it is just going to make those top guys who are getting all the money get less, and then everyone else is going to get the same. Nothing's going to change. That doesn't change anything for them. And then if we have whatever the floor is, which needs to be crazy high, historically, the teams will not change the floor. They'll give you a really low floor and they will not move it. They'll move like the cap up $5 million and they'll put the floor needs to stay the same. That's why this thing never gets any traction, because they refuse to do something that's remotely close to fair. And there's another question in here that explains why they want it so bad, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. I'm going to take a short break, and we're going to move over to the Trevor May baseball channel. But so I'll see you over there to continue this conversation, and we're going to talk about the World Series right after that. So please come with us over Trevor May Baseball. And if you're on Twitch, just hold tight. I'm going to go use the facilities and be ready to continue to talk and answer your questions after that. All right, I'll see you in a minute.